So navigating a trust administration after a loved one's death is hard enough. But what happens when there's a beneficiary who has special needs? Did you know that you can create a special needs trust during this process to safeguard that loved one's future without interfering with their public benefits? In today's video, we'll walk you through how to set up a special needs trust during the trust administration process. We'll cover the crucial steps to get it up and running smoothly, and also make sure that it's funded properly, ensuring that your loved one is fully supported while meeting all the legal requirements. Now, before I get started, I wanted to mention that I have a monthly free newsletter where I discuss all things special needs planning, and I invite you to click below to be added to that newsletter. Okay, so let's say that you're trustee of your mom's trust and your mom recently passed away, and you've gone through the trust administration process just like I described in my video, what happens to my trust when I die? Now you're ready to distribute the money to all the beneficiaries. And let's say you have a disabled sister, and that trust says that the money is supposed to be distributed to the special needs trust for your disabled sister, and it provides the terms of that special needs trust. So I want to provide an overview of all the steps you'll need to get the money from your parents' trust to your sister's special needs trust. So first, you need to get a tax ID number for that special needs trust. It's also called an EIN. So why do you need one? Well, you can't use your mom's social security number for this because she's already died. And you don't want to use the disabled beneficiary's social security number because the money in the special needs trust isn't considered their money. So what do you do to get this tax ID number? Well, first you go online to the IRS website, and this is what you'll see. So you find employer ID numbers under business and self-employed. Now, I want to mention this should be free. There's a lot of websites out there that charge you for this. That's the wrong website. You want to go to the actual IRS website to get this. And please note it's only open on the weekdays. So when you set it up, they'll ask what type of trust is this? Typically for a special needs trust, you enter that it's an irrevocable trust, but you'll want to double check with your attorney on all of the different things. You also want to enter who's the responsible party, and that's usually the owner or the controller of the assets. Then you'll provide the trustee information, which is probably you, and your contact information, whether the trust has employees. My guess is it doesn't. And in what month and year will the trust be funded? Then once you enter everything, they'll ask you, do you want to get this EIN online or do you want it to be mailed to you? Well, if it gets mailed to you, it takes like 2 weeks versus if it's online, you get it immediately. So I would say online. Here's an example of what you'll receive. So you can see on here, the employer ID number is up at the top. It's the second line from the top. And it'll write out the name of the trust on the left and also the name of the trustee. And I've blacked that out for privacy purposes. Sometimes it initials things, like you see it says special needs TR, right? And then that stands for trust. And then TEE stands for trustee. Don't be alarmed if they shorten things. Now I want to mention, if you get the tax ID number wrong, it's really a pain to go back and fix it. If you enter any information wrong, it takes the IRS sometimes months to fix it. So please don't just rush off and quickly get the tax ID number. Like, really be methodical about it and make sure you have all the information right before you enter it into the system.
Hello, did you know that my mom helps people all the way through the state of California from top to bottom? Go give her a call.
So the next thing you typically prepare is something called a certification of trust, or COT. This is basically a shortened version of a trust document, which provides banks and other entities the information that they need to set up an account in the name of the trust. Probate Code Section 18100.5 states what should be on a certification of trust. So it should state the existence of the trust and the date of execution, that's when it's signed. It should identify the settlers and the trustees of the trust. It should list the powers of the trustee, or maybe attach the powers to the back. It should state whether the trust is revocable or irrevocable. It should state which trustees need to sign in order to exercise powers of the trustee. It should list that tax ID number that you just obtained, and a statement that the trust hasn't been revoked or changed so that the bank can rely on the certification of trust. Finally, it should say how the title to the trust assets should be held. Now, this is created so that a bank or other entity can rely on the certification of trust and not have to look through the entire trust document. And also, it provides you privacy, so you don't have to provide the entire trust document. Now, note that some banks still insist on seeing a copy of the whole trust. I don't know why. Banks can be difficult. Now, I'd like to share an example of a certification of trust with you so you can see what this looks like. It goes through those very items that I mentioned. So special needs trust, right? There's the settlers are these people, and now the trust is irrevocable, can't be changed. The trustees are these people, and then you fill in the ID number, and then you say how the trust assets should be titled, right? What should it say on that bank account? It can attach excerpts from the trust, and then it says third parties can rely on the terms of the certification of trust. That's what reassures banks that they won't be liable for relying on this. I think banks only care about liability, but maybe I'm paranoid. And then it says that the trust hasn't been amended or revoked. Finally, it says that banks should rely on this. They're required to by law. And then you sign it. Okay, so then your next step is to bring that IRS letter showing the tax ID number plus a copy of the certification of trust to the bank where you want to set up an account in the name of the special needs trust. And then the bank can assist you in setting up the account. Then once that account is set up, you can directly transfer the inheritance of your disabled sister from the parent's trust account to the account that you've set up for the disabled sister. You don't want to transfer the money directly to the disabled sister and then she turns around and puts money into that trust, because we're setting up a third-party special needs trust here and money can't come directly from her. So that's a big no-no. So make sure that it goes from the revocable trust straight to the special needs trust. So now the special needs trust is funded. Yay! But we have one last step. If your disabled sister, the beneficiary, is receiving supplemental security income benefits, you need to report a copy of that trust to the Social Security Administration. I typically send a cover letter explaining all about the special needs trust and why it shouldn't be considered a countable asset for SSI purposes. I want to show you a copy of a sample letter. So in this example, we have the disabled beneficiary, Rupa Singh, and we're writing this to the Social Security Administration. You send it to the county where the beneficiary is living. So in this case, beneficiaries in San Mateo County. So it says, to whom it may concern, please note that a special needs trust has been set up for Rupa. And we've put Rupa's social security number on there so that the Social Security Administration can find her file. And it says that it's a third-party special needs trust that's being funded with money that Rupa has never owned and she won't own. And then we walk them through the POMs, which is basically what Social Security Administration follows to make sure that it's a valid trust. So we're pointing them to their own handbook. I provide several POM sites and I say, why does this apply? And then I explain that the money came from the parent's family trust and it went straight to the special needs trust, so it's not Rupa's own money. And then we reiterate that it's not an available resource. So we say, hey, it's a third-party special needs trust. And I typically send this to the Social Security Administration under certified mail to confirm that they received it. So if they ever come back and say, hey, we didn't get a copy, you can show them that little green slip that says, oh, yes, you did. All right, so I hope that this was a helpful overview of what it looks like to actually set up and fund a special needs trust during the trust administration process. If you'd like to learn about how to close up the special needs trust after the beneficiary dies, I encourage you to watch my video, Closing a Special Needs Trust, and I'll see you over there.
Did you know that my mom has a monthly newsletter? Subscribe by clicking below.